In a chamber of light and judgment they condemned us, not for crimes but for daring to rise. The Galactic Tribunal declared Earth too ambitious, too dangerous, too human. We were exiled from the stars, cast out like rebels into the void. But they forgot one truth. When humanity is cornered, we don't surrender. We evolve. And what they feared most is exactly what we became. This is the story of exile, rebellion, and the rise of a new empire. The Galactic Judgment. Captain Elena Vasquez walked through the crystal corridors of Nexus Prime, her footsteps echoing in the vast alien architecture. The space station served as the seat of the Galactic Coalition, a massive structure that housed representatives from over 300 star systems. Elena had traveled here as Earth's chief diplomat, but she carried herself with the bearing of someone who knew this might be humanity's final chance to remain part of galactic civilization. Admiral Marcus Chen walked beside her, his military uniform pristine despite the long journey from Earth. Marcus had seen combat in the border wars and the pirate conflicts, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. Behind them followed a small delegation of Earth's finest minds, scientists, philosophers, and leaders who had come to speak for their entire species. The coalition had summoned humanity to answer charges that could result in complete isolation from galactic society. Elena reviewed the accusations in her mind as they approached the Grand Chamber. Humanity stood accused of aggressive expansion, military buildup, and what the coalition termed dangerous unpredictability in interstellar relations. The Grand Chamber was a sphere of pure energy suspended in the center of Nexus Prime. As Elena and her delegation entered, gravity oriented itself to place them on what felt like solid ground, though they were actually standing on crystallized energy. Around them, hovering platforms held representatives from dozens of alien species. The sight was both beautiful and intimidating. Arbitrator Zethkar occupied the central platform, his reptilian form imposing even at a distance. The Saurian species had been mediating galactic disputes for over 1,000 years, and Zethkar's reputation for fairness was legendary. His scaled hide shifted between green and gold as he prepared to address the assembly. High Counselor Velthar materialized on the highest platform, appearing as a column of swirling blue energy contained within a crystalline shell. The ethereals were among the oldest species in the galaxy, and their perspective on temporal matters carried enormous weight in coalition decisions. When Velthar spoke, entire civilizations listened. Elena felt her heart racing as she took her position at the speaker's podium. Around her, hundreds of alien eyes focused on the small human delegation. She had spent months preparing for this moment, studying coalition law and diplomatic protocol, but nothing could have prepared her for the reality of speaking for her entire species. Arbitrator Zethkar's voice resonated through the chamber with the authority of ages. The Galactic Coalition calls this tribunal to order. We gather today to address serious concerns regarding the species known as humans from the planet Earth. The charges are as follows: unlawful territorial expansion, military aggression, and violation of established protocols for new species integration. Elena stepped forward, her voice steady despite the magnitude of the moment. Honored arbitrator, we come before this tribunal not as aggressors, but as a species seeking to find our place among the stars. Every action humanity has taken has been in accordance with the laws and traditions we were taught upon first contact. The first witness was called to present evidence against humanity. Commander Yixtal of the Crystalline Confederation took his platform, his silicon-based body reflecting the chamber's energy in prismatic patterns. His testimony focused on human expansion into the Kepler systems, where human colonies had been established on 17 worlds in less than 50 years. The rate of human expansion is unprecedented, Ixtal declared, his voice creating harmonic frequencies that the translation systems converted to standard galactic. No species in recorded history has claimed so much territory so quickly. This aggressive colonization threatens the delicate balance of galactic civilization. Marcus Chen requested permission to respond, and Arbitrator Zethkar granted it. Commander Ixtal speaks of aggressive colonization, but fails to mention that every world humans have settled was either uninhabited or abandoned. We have disturbed no existing colonies, displaced no sentient species, and followed every protocol for territorial claims established by this coalition. The testimony continued for hours, with representative after representative presenting evidence of humanity's supposed crimes. The Mollusk Collective complained that human traders were too competitive, driving down prices in established markets. The hive mind accused humans of being impossible to predict, making diplomatic relations unstable. The energy wraiths claimed that human emotions created psychic turbulence that disturbed their meditation practices. Elena listened to each accusation with growing disbelief. Humanity was being condemned not for evil acts, but for being too successful, too adaptable, and too different from established galactic norms. The coalition seemed threatened by human achievements rather than concerned about human wrongdoing. When the time came for humanity's defense, Elena stood once more at the podium. She activated a holographic display showing the Arcturus incident, an event that had occurred just 6 months earlier. The display showed a massive asteroid on collision course with Arcturus 7, a world inhabited by over 2 billion aquatic folk. 6 months ago, Elena began, the Arcturus system faced complete annihilation. A rogue asteroid, larger than Earth's moon, was going to impact Arcturus 7 with enough force to extinguish all life on the planet. The Coalition's response was to begin evacuation procedures that would have saved perhaps 10% of the population. The holographic display shifted to show human ships arriving in the system. Elena continued her testimony with passion building in her voice. Humanity responded with everything we had. We sent our entire deep space fleet, not to claim territory or gain resources, but to save lives. Using techniques no other species had attempted, human engineers managed to alter the asteroid's trajectory. The display showed the incredible operation that had unfolded. Human ships had attached massive fusion drives to the asteroid, gradually pushing it away from its collision course over a period of 3 weeks. The operation had required every piece of heavy equipment humanity possessed and had nearly bankrupted Earth's Colonial Development Fund. We saved 2 billion lives that day, Elena declared, her voice echoing through the chamber. We asked for nothing in return, claimed no territory, and demanded no payment. We did it because we believe that every sentient life has value, regardless of species or political affiliation. Murmurs spread through the assembly as representatives discussed this new information. Many had not been fully briefed on the Arcturus incident, and the scope of human sacrifice for alien lives came as a surprise to several coalition members. High Counselor Velthar's energy form shifted to deeper blue as he prepared to speak. The humans' actions at Arcturus were indeed admirable, but they also illustrate the very unpredictability that concerns this coalition. Humanity acted without consulting proper authorities, deployed military-grade equipment in a neutral system, and established dangerous precedents for unilateral action. Elena felt her frustration growing. We established the precedent that sentient life takes priority over bureaucratic procedure. If that makes humanity dangerous to this coalition, then perhaps we need to reconsider what this coalition truly represents. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of alien voices, some supporting Elena's words while others condemned her defiance. Arbitrator Zethkar called for order, his powerful voice cutting through the chaos. The tribunal will now hear final arguments before voting, Zethkar announced. Each member species will cast their vote on whether humanity should be granted full membership in the Galactic Coalition or be declared incompatible with galactic civilization. Representative after representative cast their votes, and Elena watched with growing horror as the pattern became clear. Species after species voted against humanity, often citing reasons that seemed petty and fearful rather than justified. The Crystalline Confederation voted against humans for being too adaptable. The Energy Wraiths condemned humanity for being emotionally chaotic. The Hive Mind declared humans individually unpredictable and therefore dangerous. When the voting concluded, the results were devastating. Of the 237 species represented in the coalition, only 18 voted in favor of human membership. 43 abstained, and the remaining 176 voted for humanity's exclusion from galactic society. High Counselor Velthar announced the verdict with formal precision. By majority vote of the Galactic Coalition, the species known as humans is hereby declared incompatible with galactic civilization. Humanity is ordered to withdraw all colonies, stations, and vessels beyond their home system within 30 standard days. Violation of this decree will be considered an act of war against the Coalition. High Counselor Velthar announced the verdict with formal precision. By majority vote of the Galactic Coalition, the species known as humans is hereby declared incompatible with galactic civilization. Humanity is ordered to withdraw all colonies, stations, and vessels beyond their home system within 30 standard days. Violation of this decree will be considered an act of war against the Coalition. Elena felt the words hit her like physical blows. 30 days to abandon colonies that house millions of humans, to dismantle research stations that had taken decades to build, to retreat to the single solar system that had given birth to their species. The Coalition was not just rejecting humanity, they were attempting to strangle human civilization in its cradle. Marcus Chen stepped forward, his military bearing evident as he addressed the tribunal. This coalition speaks of balance and peace, but what you have done today is an act of aggression against an entire species. You condemn us not for our crimes, but for our success. History will remember this day, and it will not judge you kindly. As the human delegation prepared to leave, Elena took one last look around the Grand Chamber. The alien representatives were already dispersing, moving on to other business as if they had not just condemned an entire species to isolation. The casual indifference was perhaps the most insulting aspect of the entire proceeding. During the long journey back to Earth, Elena and Marcus worked on their report to the United Earth government. The coalition had given humanity 30 days to comply with their demands, but both Elena and Marcus knew that compliance was impossible. Even if every human ship worked around the clock, they could not evacuate all the colonies in such a short time. More importantly, neither Elena nor Marcus believed that humanity should comply. The coalition had revealed itself to be a stagnant oligarchy more interested in maintaining control than promoting justice or progress. If this was the price of membership in galactic civilization, then perhaps humanity was better off building something new. As Earth grew larger in their view screen, Elena made a decision that would change the course of human history. Instead of recommending compliance with the coalition's demands, she would recommend resistance. Humanity had saved billions of alien lives and been condemned for it. Now it was time to save themselves. The coalition thought they were containing a dangerous species, but they had actually created something far more dangerous, a unified humanity with nothing left to lose and everything to prove. The galaxy would soon learn that humans had not been seeking membership in an existing civilization, but preparing to build a better one. The Underground Revolution. Dr. Sarah Kim floated in the zero gravity of Europa Station, watching through the observation deck as massive construction mechs assembled humanity's most ambitious project. The coalition had given Earth 30 days to withdraw from galactic space, but those 30 days had become 30 months of the most intensive technological development in human history. What the galaxy saw as humanity's retreat had actually been the greatest mobilization effort the species had ever undertaken. Sarah had been Earth's leading quantum physicist before the coalition's ultimatum, but now she found herself coordinating a resistance movement that spanned the entire solar system. The coalition believed they had contained humanity within the Sol system, but they had underestimated human ingenuity and determination. Hidden bases throughout the asteroid belt, concealed facilities on the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, and secret shipyards in the Kuiper Belt were all working toward a single goal, proving that humanity would not be caged. Captain Rex Morrison docked his ship, the Iron Will, at Europa Station's hidden bay. Rex had been a legitimate cargo hauler before the coalition's decree, but necessity had transformed him into something between a smuggler and a freedom fighter. His ship's holds contained the latest intelligence from beyond the blockade, gathered by human agents who had refused to abandon their posts when the withdrawal order came. Rex made his way through the station's corridors to the command center, where Sarah and her team monitored dozens of projects simultaneously. The command center was a marvel of human engineering, its walls lined with displays showing everything from ship construction progress to intelligence reports from Coalition space. At the center of it all, Sarah Kim orchestrated the rebellion with the precision of a symphony conductor. "What's the word from the frontier?" Sarah asked as Rex entered, not looking up from the holographic displays that surrounded her workstation. She was reviewing the latest reports from the Kepler colonies, where millions of humans had supposedly been evacuated but were actually hiding in underground cities and asteroid bases. Rex grinned as he handed her a data crystal. "The coalition thinks they've got us bottled up, but our people are everywhere. The evacuation was the best thing that ever happened to human intelligence gathering. We've got agents on every major coalition world, and most of them don't even know we're there." Sarah inserted the crystal into her console and watched as new information flooded her displays. Human agents throughout coalition space were reporting massive military buildups, suggesting that the aliens were preparing for something far beyond simple containment. More troubling were reports of coalition forces attacking other species who had spoken in favor of humanity during the tribunal. Engineer Dmitry Volkov approached Sarah's station, his usually cheerful demeanor replaced by intense focus. Dmitry had designed the fusion drives that saved Arcturus 7, but his current project dwarfed anything he had built before. "Sarah, you need to see the latest test results from the Europa dig site. What we found down there changes everything." Sarah followed Dmitry through the station's central hub to a heavily secured elevator that descended deep into Europa's ice crust. The elevator ride took over 10 minutes, carrying them to a depth that officially did not exist. When the doors opened, Sarah found herself looking at the greatest archaeological discovery in human history. The cavern stretched for kilometers in every direction, its walls covered with crystalline structures that pulsed with soft blue light. At the center of the cavern stood the remnants of a massive starship, its design unlike anything in the Coalition database. The ship was clearly ancient, its hull composed of materials that human science was only beginning to understand. "We estimate it's been here for over 50,000 years, Dmitri explained as they walked toward the vessel. "The ice preserved everything perfectly. The ship's computer core is still functional, and the data we've recovered is incredible. This wasn't built by any species in the current Coalition." They entered the ship through an airlock that had been retrofitted with human equipment. Inside, the alien architecture was both beautiful and functional, with curved corridors that seemed to flow like water frozen in time. Dmitri led Sarah to what appeared to be the ship's bridge, where human technicians worked alongside equipment that seemed to blend technology and art. Agent Lisa Park looked up from a translated data terminal as they approached. Lisa had been Earth's top xenolinguist before becoming the leader of humanity's intelligence operations. Her ability to decode alien languages and cultures had made her invaluable to the Resistance, but her current expression suggested she had discovered something that concerned her. "The ship belonged to a species called the Predecessors," Lisa explained, gesturing to the alien text that scrolled across her display. "According to their records, they were the original founders of galactic civilization, but they were overthrown by the ancestors of the current Coalition species about 40,000 years ago." Sarah felt a chill that had nothing to do with Europa's environment. "Overthrown how?" Lisa's expression grew darker. "The same way the Coalition tried to eliminate us. First, they were accused of being too aggressive and unpredictable. Then they were isolated from galactic society. Finally, they were systematically hunted down and destroyed. The Coalition has done this before, Sarah, multiple times." The implications were staggering. The Galactic Coalition was not the peaceful organization it claimed to be, but an empire built on the destruction of innovative species. Humanity's treatment was not an exception, but part of a pattern that had been repeating for tens of thousands of years. Dmitri activated a holographic display that showed the ship's technical specifications. The predecessors were more advanced than anything in the current galaxy. Their ships could travel between star systems in days rather than months, and their weapons technology was centuries ahead of Coalition standards. "If we can understand their technology, we can build ships that make the Coalition fleet look like toys," Sarah finished. The Resistance had just discovered the key to not just surviving the Coalition's aggression, but defeating it entirely. Over the following months, human engineers worked around the clock to decode predecessor technology. The alien systems operated on principles that challenged fundamental assumptions about physics and engineering. Their faster-than-light drives did not rely on the jump gates that the Coalition controlled, instead using quantum field manipulation to fold space around the ship. The breakthrough came when Dmitri successfully activated a predecessor navigation computer. The device revealed the locations of hidden predecessor bases throughout the galaxy, facilities that had been concealed for 40,000 years. More importantly, it showed that some of these bases were still active, still inhabited by the descendants of species that had been eliminated by the Coalition. Sarah assembled her command team in Europa Station's war room to discuss their next move. The room was Spartan by necessity, its walls lined with tactical displays and communication equipment that connected the hidden base to resistance cells throughout human space. Maps of the galaxy showed Coalition territory in red, with newly discovered predecessor sites marked in blue. "We're not alone," Sarah announced to the assembled leaders. "The Coalition has been destroying innovative species for millennia, but some survived. There's an entire shadow civilization out there hiding in the spaces between Coalition systems." Captain Rex Morrison leaned forward in his chair, his eyes bright with possibility. "You're talking about making contact with them, building an alliance." Lisa Park nodded enthusiastically. "The linguistic patterns in the predecessor database show connections to over a dozen modern languages that aren't part of the Coalition. These survivors have been hiding, but they're still out there." Dmitri activated a holographic display showing ship designs based on predecessor technology. The vessels were sleek and deadly, their hulls incorporating materials that could withstand Coalition energy weapons while delivering firepower that could destroy entire fleets. "With their technology and our manufacturing capability, we could build a fleet that changes the balance of power in the galaxy." Sarah made the decision that would transform humanity from refugees to revolutionaries. We're going to make contact with these survivor species. We're going to share our technology and our knowledge, and we're going to build something the galaxy has never seen, a true alliance of free peoples. The first contact mission launched 3 weeks later. A small fleet of ships built with hybrid human predecessor technology slipped past Coalition patrols and headed for the coordinates of an active predecessor base in the Veil Nebula. The ships were crewed by volunteers who knew they might never return to human space, but were willing to risk everything for the chance to find allies among the stars. The mission was led by Elena Vasquez, who had traded her diplomat's uniform for the practical clothing of an explorer. Elena had volunteered for the dangerous mission partly out of guilt over humanity's exile, but mostly out of hope that they could find a better way forward than endless conflict with the Coalition. The journey to the Veil Nebula took 6 weeks using the new drive technology, a fraction of the time it would have required with Coalition standard equipment. As the human ships approached the coordinates, their sensors detected massive energy signatures hidden within the nebula's ionized gases. What they found exceeded their wildest expectations. The predecessor base was not a simple outpost, but a massive city in space, its structures stretching for hundreds of kilometers through the nebula. The city was home to dozens of species, all of them descendants of civilizations that the Coalition had tried to destroy. The greeting that came over the communication channels was delivered in perfect English, suggesting that these survivors had been monitoring human activities for some time. Welcome, children of Earth. We have been waiting for you to find us. My name is Keeper Thane, and I speak for the free peoples of the Veil. Elena found herself standing in a conference chamber that defied every expectation she had about alien architecture. The room was designed to accommodate dozens of different species, with varying gravity fields, atmospheric compositions, and environmental controls. Around the curved tables sat representatives of civilizations that had been hiding from the Coalition for thousands of years. Keeper Thane was tall and graceful, with silver skin that seemed to shimmer with internal light. His species, the Luminary, had been one of the first to be targeted by the Coalition's expansion, but they had managed to escape into deep space before their homeworld was destroyed. Your arrival marks the beginning of something we have hoped for since our exile began, Thane explained. A species with the courage and capability to challenge the Coalition directly. Elena learned that the Free Peoples had been monitoring the galaxy for centuries, waiting for an opportunity to reclaim their heritage. They possessed technologies that the Coalition had forgotten existed, including weapons that could disable entire fleets and defensive systems that made their hidden cities invisible to even the most advanced sensors. More importantly, they had been in contact with dissatisfied species within Coalition territory. Entire civilizations were growing tired of the Coalition's oppressive control and were ready to join any viable alternative. The human resistance had provided the catalyst that could transform scattered rebellion into galactic revolution. The alliance that formed in the Veil Nebula would become known as the Free Worlds Federation. Humans brought manufacturing capability and adaptability, while the survivor species contributed advanced technology and detailed knowledge of Coalition weaknesses. Together, they began planning not just for resistance, but for the complete overthrow of the galactic order. Sarah Kim received the news of the successful contact through quantum communication networks that the Coalition could not intercept. Standing in the command center of Europa Station, surrounded by displays showing the expanding network of human bases and allied facilities, she realized that humanity's exile had become the greatest opportunity in galactic history. The Coalition had intended to destroy human civilization, but instead they had created the foundation for something far more dangerous to their control. A unified resistance with the technology and determination to build a better galaxy. The war for galactic freedom was about to begin, and humanity would not be fighting alone. The new empire rises. President Michael Torres stood on the observation deck of Terra Nova, the first world to be officially claimed by the Free Worlds Federation. 5 years had passed since humanity's exile from galactic civilization, and those 5 years had transformed not just the human species but the entire galaxy. What had begun as a desperate resistance movement had evolved into the most powerful alliance the galaxy had ever seen. Terra Nova orbited a star system that had been marked as uninhabitable in Coalition databases, but human terraforming technology combined with predecessor environmental systems had transformed the barren world into a garden paradise. The planet now served as the capital of an empire that spanned over 200 star systems, each one defended by fleets that made Coalition forces look primitive by comparison. Admiral Elena Vasquez materialized on the observation deck as a holographic projection, her image transmitted from the flagship of the Federation's First Fleet. Elena had traded diplomacy for military command, and her tactical brilliance had made her the Coalition's most feared opponent. Under her leadership, Federation forces had won every engagement with Coalition fleets, often destroying superior numbers through superior technology and unconventional tactics. Mr. President, Elena's hologram saluted with crisp military precision. I'm transmitting the latest intelligence reports from the Galactic Core. The Coalition is in complete disarray. 3 more member species have declared independence in the past week, and their military is stretched beyond its breaking point. Michael nodded as he reviewed the holographic displays that surrounded them. The galaxy had been transformed beyond recognition since the Federation's first victory over a Coalition fleet in the Proxima system. That engagement had demonstrated that human-built ships equipped with predecessor technology could destroy Coalition vessels with ease, but more importantly, it had shown other species that the Coalition was not invincible. The cascade of defections had begun slowly, with individual worlds declaring independence from Coalition control. But as Federation forces proved their ability to protect rebel systems, entire species had begun switching sides. The Coalition's empire was crumbling as members realized they had alternatives to submission. Ambassador Kreeth entered the observation chamber, his crystalline form reflecting the light of Terra Nova's binary stars. Kreeth had been a Coalition military commander until he witnessed Federation forces rescuing Coalition civilians from a natural disaster, an act that his own superiors had forbidden as strategically irrelevant. His defection had brought detailed knowledge of Coalition military capabilities and strategic planning. The ethereal High Council has agreed to meet with Federation representatives, Kreeth announced, his harmonic voice carrying undertones of satisfaction. They're finally ready to acknowledge that the Coalition has failed as a galactic government. Michael felt a surge of vindication at the news. The Ethereals had been among the most vocal opponents of human membership in the Coalition, condemning humanity as chaotically unpredictable. Now they were seeking negotiations with the very species they had tried to exile. General Alex Thompson joined the group, his expression serious despite the positive news. Alex had been responsible for Federation military intelligence, and his networks provided early warning of Coalition movements throughout the galaxy. We need to be careful about these negotiations, he warned. Our intelligence suggests that some Coalition species are planning a desperate final offensive. They'd rather destroy the galaxy than see it ruled by inferior species. The warning proved prophetic when Federation sensors detected massive Coalition fleet movements toward the Terra Nova system. The Coalition had assembled over 3,000 warships for what appeared to be a final attempt to destroy the Federation capital. It was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history, and its objective was clear: the complete annihilation of human civilization and their allies. Elena's fleet numbered only 800 ships, but each vessel incorporated technology that was centuries more advanced than Coalition standards. The Federation had spent 5 years reverse engineering predecessor designs and improving them with human innovation. Their ships were faster, more maneuverable, and far more heavily armed than anything the Coalition possessed. The Battle of Terra Nova became the defining moment of the Galactic War. Coalition forces arrived expecting to overwhelm Federation defenses through sheer numbers, but they found themselves facing an enemy that fought unlike anything they had encountered before. Human tactical doctrine emphasized speed and adaptability over rigid formation fighting, while predecessor technology allowed Federation ships to appear and disappear across the battlefield like ghosts. Michael watched the battle from Terra Nova's command center, surrounded by displays that showed the engagement in real time. Federation ships moved through the Coalition fleet like predators hunting among prey, their weapons carving through enemy formations with devastating efficiency. The Coalition's numerical advantage meant nothing when their ships could not target enemies that moved faster than their sensors could track. The turning point came when Elena executed a maneuver that no Coalition tactician could have anticipated. Instead of engaging the enemy fleet directly, Federation forces targeted the Coalition's command and control systems. Quantum viruses designed by human programmers infiltrated Coalition networks, causing enemy ships to lose coordination and begin firing on each other. Within 6 hours, the largest military force in galactic history had been reduced to scattered groups of vessels fleeing in all directions. Coalition losses exceeded 2,000 ships, while Federation casualties numbered less than 50. The victory was so complete that several Coalition species surrendered immediately, unwilling to continue fighting an obviously hopeless war. The aftermath of the battle transformed the galactic political landscape overnight. Species that had remained neutral declared for the Federation, while coalition loyalists found themselves abandoned by allies who no longer believed in victory. The message was clear. The age of coalition dominance was over. Negotiations for the coalition's surrender took place on Terra Nova, in a conference chamber designed to accommodate representatives from over 100 different species. Michael found himself facing the same aliens who had condemned humanity 5 years earlier, but their positions had been reversed completely. Where once humans had stood as defendants before a hostile tribunal, now coalition leaders came as supplicants seeking terms for peace. High Counselor Velthar appeared as a diminished energy form, his once brilliant blue glow reduced to a pale flicker. The ancient ethereal who had once dismissed humanity as dangerous chaos now spoke with the humility of the defeated. President Torres, we come to acknowledge the failure of the coalition system and to request membership in your federation. Michael felt no satisfaction in the moment, only sadness for the unnecessary conflict that had cost so many lives. The Federation is not interested in conquest or revenge, Counselor. We offer membership to any species willing to embrace the principles of freedom and cooperation that define our alliance. The peace treaty that emerged from the negotiations established a new galactic order based on voluntary association rather than forced compliance. The Federation grew to include over 400 member species, each one contributing their unique strengths to the alliance while maintaining their cultural independence. Arbitrator Zethkar, who had presided over humanity's original tribunal, requested a private meeting with Michael during the final negotiations. The ancient Saurian looked older and more tired than he had 5 years earlier, his scales dulled by the weight of recent events. I owe your species an apology, President Torres. We condemned you for the very qualities that make you natural leaders. Michael offered the old mediator a chair, recognizing the courage it took to admit such a fundamental error. The coalition made decisions based on fear rather than justice, Arbitrator. The Federation offers a chance to build something better. Zethkar nodded slowly, his expression thoughtful. Perhaps that was our mistake from the beginning. We sought to preserve the past rather than embrace the future. Your species has shown us that progress requires risk, and that true stability comes from adaptation rather than stagnation. The transformation of galactic civilization continued over the following years. Federation technology sharing programs raised the standard of living on thousands of worlds, while human exploration missions discovered new resources and opportunities throughout the galaxy. The oppressive taxation and resource extraction that had characterized coalition rule was replaced by voluntary cooperation and mutual benefit. Dr. Sarah Kim, now serving as the Federation's Minister of Science, established research programs that brought together the greatest minds from hundreds of species. Projects that would have taken centuries under coalition restrictions were completed in decades through collaborative effort and shared knowledge. The predecessor sites throughout the galaxy were open to scientific study, revealing technologies that pushed the boundaries of what any species thought possible. Faster-than-light communication networks connected every Federation world, while medical advances eliminated diseases that had plagued galactic civilization for millennia. Elena Vasquez, now serving as Supreme Admiral of Federation forces, established defense agreements that protected member worlds without requiring them to sacrifice their independence. The Federation military existed not to conquer new territory, but to ensure that no species would ever again face the choice between submission and destruction. 10 years after their exile from galactic civilization, humans found themselves leading an alliance that surpassed anything the old coalition had achieved. The Federation included species from every corner of the galaxy, united not by fear or force, but by shared commitment to freedom and progress. Michael Torres stood once again on the observation deck of Terra Nova, but now he looked out at a galaxy transformed. Ships from hundreds of worlds moved through the space around the Federation capital, their diverse designs reflecting the rich variety of cultures that had joined the alliance. Trade, exploration, and scientific exchange had replaced the rigid hierarchy that had characterized the old order. Ambassador Kreeth joined him at the observation window, his crystalline form now bearing the insignia of the Federation Council. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if the coalition had accepted humanity from the beginning?" he asked. Michael considered the question carefully before responding. The coalition was never interested in what humanity could contribute. They saw us as a threat to their control rather than an opportunity for growth. In trying to destroy us, they created the very thing they feared most, a better alternative to their failed system. The irony was not lost on any of them. The Coalition's attempt to contain humanity had instead unleashed human potential on a galactic scale. What began as punishment had become liberation, not just for humanity, but for every species that had ever dreamed of something better than the stagnant oligarchy that had ruled the galaxy for millennia. As Michael watched ships from across the galaxy arriving at Terra Nova, he reflected on the journey that had brought them to this point. Humanity had been banished from the stars only to build an empire that spanned the galaxy. They had been condemned as dangerous only to become the guardians of galactic peace. They had been called chaotic only to create the most stable and prosperous civilization the galaxy had ever known. The Coalition had been right about one thing. Humanity was dangerous. Dangerous to tyranny, dangerous to oppression, and dangerous to any system that sought to limit the potential of sentient beings. In trying to protect themselves from that danger, the Coalition had instead ensured that it would spread to every corner of the galaxy. The age of human expansion had begun not with conquest, but with liberation, and the galaxy would never be the same.